Here is the dilemma for Democrats. Their young people, their key constituency, not only don't like their own civilization, they like the wrong. They actually think Hamas is a liberation movement. They chant for the Houthis. Their chant will honor our martyrs at Yale. They're looking for love in all the wrong countries. At an AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom.
When Bill Maher finally loses his cool, even more dramatically than your outspoken uncle at Thanksgiving, the result isn't just another rant. It's a full-scale verbal explosion aimed straight at AOC and the Democrats. In a fiery moment that's already sparking controversy, Maher questions whether loving your country has somehow become a political offense. Just when you thought the chaos in politics couldn't get any louder, he grabs the mic and hurls a truth bomb right into the heart of the liberal echo chamber. The fallout? Massive. And if you haven't heard what he said yet, you might want to catch it before cancel culture comes knocking on his door for the umpteenth time this week.
Rising New Jersey, Democrats would point out how death lasers were disproportionately affecting low-income communities and people of color. And AOC would tweet, stop demonizing the Marx community.
Bill Maher finally snapped, but not in the way you'd expect. He didn't storm off set or scream at interns. No, this was the calculated, razor-sharp snap of a seasoned comedian philosopher. The kind where every word drips with sarcasm sharper than a guillotine, and the punchline hits before anyone even knows they're in the crosshairs. What made it even more explosive? Maher, known for regularly roasting conservatives, suddenly turned the flamethrower on the progressive wing of his own political tribe.
As a Democrat, you were there with him, but he does seem to be the voice of reason in that party these days.
No question, and he was 100% correct when he said it on air the other day, and I couldn't agree with him more. The fact is, you don't see them marching in the streets or storming buildings in support of Laken Riley, who was murdered by an illegal immigrant, or Edon Alexander, who is now rescued from captivity.
No one saw it coming, and he made sure it landed with maximum impact. Let's get one thing straight. Bill Maher didn't just take a casual swipe at the Democrats. He went scorched earth, tearing into the party's golden child, AOC, and torching the broader culture of performative left-wing doom like it was a symbolic burning of Uncle Sam himself. What set him off? The insufferable, soul-draining spectacle that passes for progressive patriotism these days, or more accurately, the glaring absence of it. With surgical sarcasm and brutal honesty, Maher called out what many are too afraid to say aloud. This felt less like commentary, and more like a funeral for common sense, and Bill Maher played the role of the last sane liberal still standing on television.
Thought leaders in the Democratic Party keep encouraging, not rebuking the idea that America is cringe and the people who run Gaza are great. The Democrats doomed. Alyssa Slotkin's right. Liberals are weak and woke, especially the white ones, and they indulge all sorts of nonsense from their kids. So talk to children and remind them, you don't really want to live like heroes in Hamas. All the you do all day, it was all made in America. Your smartphone, your Grubhub, your freedom to bitch about America, that's all America.
He didn't just critique the Democrats. He dismantled the sacred pillars of leftist self-righteousness, endless victimhood, competitive outrage, and the relentless campaign to cancel America like it's just another offensive Netflix special. In Maher's world, it's clear. No one on the far left seems satisfied unless they're publicly miserable and preferably dragging the rest of the country down with them. In Maher's view, loving your country doesn't mean draping yourself in an American flag and roaring at a monster truck rally. It means recognizing complexity, understanding that while America has its flaws and plenty of them, it's also the place where you can tweet your outrage while sipping fair trade lattes in an air-conditioned cafe.
Job standing up to my withering questioning about the Republicans. Now let's get to the Democrats. Okay. Here's the problem for all the people who are upset about what the Republicans are doing. This was in the New York Times of all places this week. Democratic parties. Many Americans say they do not believe the Democratic Party is focused on the issues that matter most to them. So if you think all this Trump stuff is going to go away because the other party is going to come in, well, That may not be the case.
But even that kind of freedom is apparently offensive now. Maher took aim at the rise of performative activism, the kind that treats the flag not as a unifying symbol, but as a provocation, a trigger for outrage addicts ready to charge like bulls at the sight of red, white, and blue. These days, waving an American flag will get you side-eyed quicker than mispronouncing someone's 17-part identity at a vegan poetry slam. And Maher didn't need AOC in the room to dismantle the dogma she's come to represent. This wasn't a personal attack. It was a full frontal assault on an ideology that's rebranded patriotism as problematic, painted the national anthem as offensive, and reduced American history to nothing more than a list of sins. As always, Maher delivered his critique as an equal opportunity offender, reminding everyone that being loyal to your beliefs doesn't mean staying silent while your side plunges headfirst into a pit of theatrical, self-righteous despair. If your idea of progress is convincing people their country is nothing but a flaming wreck of injustice and failure, then you're not inspiring change. You're selling hopelessness dressed up as virtue. And Maher, he wasn't buying. He returned the whole ideology, receipts in hand, and lit it on fire on the way out. Because somehow, in today's discourse, loving your country is treated like a red flag, and if you dare wave one, you're just a trucker hat away from being branded a threat.
Well, let's hear it for Democratic politicians who keep it real. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan says Democrats are, quote, weak and woke and should get some goddamn alpha energy and need to retake the flag. I gotta say this.
Bill Maher, always the equal opportunity offender, finally reached his breaking point with the endless cycle of performative outrage and the nonstop America bashing that seems to have become the left's new favorite competitive sport. In classic Maher fashion, he all but shouted, maybe constantly trashing the country that gave you freedom, fame, and a blue checkmark is just a bit ungrateful. No, he didn't name AOC every few seconds. He didn't need to. Her brand of activist theater politics was smeared across the moment like a Jackson Pollock painting, only this one was made of student loan angst and TikTok filters. Maher's had enough of the doom and gloom narrative that paints America as a nonstop horror show, as if nothing has ever gone right since the first pilgrim tripped over Plymouth Rock and stubbed his toe on systemic oppression.
Finally, Nero, let's hear it for Democratic politicians who keep it real. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, Democrats are, quote, weak and woke and should get goddamn alpha energy and need to fucking retake the flag. I gotta say this. I love this new trend where politicians fuck and shit.
It wasn't just the preachy tone or the apocalyptic Twitter threads that set him off. It was the feeling of being exiled alongside moderate Democrats and anyone still clinging to common sense. These days, even the mildest praise for America gets you labeled a flag-waving extremist, one sparkler short of launching fireworks off a monster truck while shouting conspiracy theories. And Maher, he's calling BS on all of it. And Maher, the original liberal with zero tolerance for nonsense, had the audacity to do what few dare anymore, call out the irony, all of it. The irony of Americans relentlessly trashing their own country while clearly never having had to explain free speech to someone living under a regime where one wrong word can make you vanish. The irony of calling the U.S. a fascist state from the safety of protest-filled streets by people who've never seen real fascism.
Here's the thing. Senator Slotkin is a serious person. She's a former CIA agent. You know how every streaming action movie now is about a soccer mom who used to be in the CIA? Okay, really her. So we should listen to her because she's right. Lady Deadpool is right. Democrats should reclaim the flag and then get it clean because someone's been humping it.
The irony of anti-capitalist influencers monetizing their outrage through brand deals on social media. It was brilliant. With the precision of a satirical surgeon, Maher dissected every contradiction, not to mock patriotism, but to highlight how the left has warped it into something shameful. These days, expressing pride in America's progress makes you instantly suspect. Say you love this country, and suddenly you're being asked if you've been brainwashed or seduced by the dark powers of barbecue and fireworks. AOC naturally stands as the peak of this moral performance art. Whether she's strutting into the Met Gala in a $30,000 dress with cryptic socialist slogans stitched in, or framing every economic debate as a Star Wars-level battle between empire and rebellion. Her whole aesthetic screams, "The system is evil, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe." It wasn't just AOC and Maher's sites, it was the entire aesthetic of modern progressivism. A movement that seems permanently outraged, culturally exhausted, and defiantly pessimistic.
I think I've used the word progressive. I think I've said woke. I think there's a big difference between woke, but words migrate, and it went something else. I think there's a big difference between an old school liberal and a woke person. You say progressive Democrat. How do you describe it?
I didn't leave the label. It left me. After on October 7th, I really knew that whole progressive act would be blasted apart.
How do you explain that, if you can, that the people who consider themselves the most liberal have abandoned Israel for the people outward say they want a genocide? Why do you think that is, and will this split the Democrats?
The kind of crowd that feels guilty for celebrating the 4th of July, yet curates multi-slide Instagram tributes for National Avocado Day. The people who call the Pledge of Allegiance oppressive, but think dropping $300 on ethically sourced, candles handcrafted by overworked interns is some kind of revolutionary act. And Maher, he shredded the whole charade with flair. But this wasn't just a takedown of cultural quirks or social media hypocrisy. His critique went deeper. It was about the real-world consequences of a political narrative built entirely on doom and disdain. Because, believe it or not, when your core message boils down to everything's awful and we hate it here, you tend to alienate voters who aren't exactly thrilled by relentless self-loathing. Maher made the painfully obvious point. You can't win over a country by convincing everyone it's a flaming wreck with a flag stapled on top. That may win claps in university lecture halls or trend on blue-check Twitter, but it doesn't resonate with everyday people. The ones juggling jobs, raising families, and just trying to get through the week without being told their very existence is a moral offense.
The border issue politically, because I feel this is a disaster for the Democrats. They look like sanctuary city hypocrites. They were the ones said, look, we're the compassionate people. Everybody should get a shot here. And then when they started sending...
Instead of inspiring hope, the Democratic message these days often lands like a gloomy TED Talk. Polished visuals, stylish fonts, but no real optimism. It's all grievance without gratitude, non-stop criticism with barely a hint of constructive solutions. And Maher, reasonably enough, asked the obvious question, how exactly is that supposed to unite anyone? When the average voter hears your pitch and walks away thinking, so you hate the country and also think I'm the problem? It's not exactly a rallying cry. Voters tend to gravitate toward the candidate who, at the very least, pretends to like them. It's like trying to sell a car by saying it's unreliable and once ran over a turtle. Bold strategy. But Maher wasn't just mocking the messaging. He went after the empty theatrics masquerading as activism. He took aim at the left's growing addiction to symbolism over substance. These days, it's easier to argue over murals than to fix broken infrastructure. It's trendier to cancel a founding father than to balance a budget. What once aimed to drive real progress has devolved into a social media circus of hashtags, slogans, and bumper sticker revolutions. And at the rotten core of it all is the belief that America is irredeemable, a lost cause. Maher torched that notion with the conviction of someone who actually remembers when liberals didn't hate the country they were trying to improve. Bill Maher has seen this script play out too many times to count. First, he calls out the left from within, only to get slapped with labels like centrist grifter, libertarian sympathizer, or worst of all, boomer. But he's unfazed. Maher isn't trying to land a spot at BuzzFeed or win favor with the internet's cool kids who debate capitalism between Uber Eats deliveries. What he truly wants is a country he can still recognize. Because here's the truth. If your entire political identity is built on being a victim of the system, while happily cashing in on every benefit that system offers, then maybe you're part of the problem. If you live somewhere you can openly criticize your government without fear of retribution, that's a privilege worth acknowledging, without turning green in the process. And if you're a rising political star more invested in curating your social media vibe than drafting real legislation, don't be surprised when someone like Maher pulls back the curtain and finds nothing but empty Instagram captions where your policies should be. Maher isn't yearning for some mythical, flawless America that never existed. He's a realist, recognizing an imperfect nation that's still striving. And he's loud and clear. Relentless cynicism isn't leadership. Calling everything racist doesn't make you morally superior. Redefining patriotism as a crime won't win you elections. His critique cuts deeper than attitudes. It's a call out of failed strategy. And Maher just kicked that weak play to the curb like a half-baked vegan charcuterie board. Maybe being a public servant should mean actually serving the public, not just putting on a show. Maher's critique wasn't just a roast. It was a cleansing blaze. And the best part, the usual crowd stayed silent. Maybe it's finally time someone called it like it is. Because if your plan is to drag the country through the mud, at least have the decency to bring him up. If your mission is to make America better, try not to start every sentence by trashing it. And if you say you're fighting for the people, maybe pause before treating them like clueless colonizers in need of your enlightenment. Maher delivered it all with style, wit, and just enough bite to leave a mark. Not because he hates the left, but because he wants it to stop setting itself on fire, then acting surprised when it burns. In a world where common sense feels radical and simple gratitude is questioned, that might just be the most revolutionary act of all.